Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Marvel's Behind the Mask. And this is a new documentary from Disney Plus focusing on the writers and the perspectives of Marvel Comics. And this is from director Mike Jacobs and really focuses at the beginning on setting the stage for what brought about Marvel Comics. And you talk about Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and their backgrounds and like hiding their actual names to make them lose that ethnicity that defined who they are and growing up, and coming in after like the creation of Batman and Superman to create these new kinds of heroes that are more human in real places, because like DC Comics is all about like Metropolis and Gotham. Like, they're based off of New York and Chicago, but they're not actual places. And Marvel went to the route of these are actual people from actual places that we can relate to. And you know, you had that first Captain America comic where he's punching out Hitler. You had Hulk, who originally was gray and was like a golem, and representing that perspective from Judaism. And you had all these different elements that tried to connect these characters. And this documentary, which it's only an hour and 4 minutes, does a great job of building, as you see, the evolution of Marvel Comics, the introduction of Black Panther, the introduction of Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers. You have all the way up to like Miles Morales, and shaking things up and making Marvel Comics and comic books in general more inclusive. You go through those times of like the white people writing black roles of like Black Panther and trying to make him and Wakanda stick out, because it isn't just this jungle civilization. It's like they're the most advanced civilization in the world. And that's something special and breaks down those archetypes and tropes. You have Luke Cage, who was basically, they were trying to capitalize on blaxploitation and stuff like that, and Luke Cage was written by white people. And it was interesting how they showed that perspective of like, hey, this is how white people think black people speak, and that's how Luke Cage spoke. But as time went on and bringing in more inclusion on the writer's side to give them the opportunities to really tell their stories, and talking about like gender roles and how it was mostly just women were in distress, or the superhero females had these powers that were like looked nice and they could stand and pose, and they weren't like the cool physical powers that all the male superheroes had. Like, you have like Scarlet Witch, who's like standing like this, or the Invisible Woman standing like this, and like she used it to hide and stuff like that. And you have all these different perspectives on these Marvel characters. It's a really fun and interesting dive into the history of Marvel Comics and how things have evolved over the years. This isn't something that's like earth-shattering documentary, nothing particularly interesting in how it was presented from a filmmaking perspective, but in general, this was a fun ride, especially for somebody who loves Marvel Comics and like Marvel movies. And I thought it was really interesting and meaningful, and to me it hit really close to home. And I know there's a lot of people out there who love comic book movies and comics in general that I think will get a lot of enjoyment out of this. And even if you're not a huge fan, it's a very informative and interesting perspective on this art form, and it's right there on Disney Plus. But those are my thoughts on Marvel's Behind the Mask. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.